Thank you very much, Robin. We are pleased to take a look at the Health Canada XML product monograph topic. I'm going to start sharing my screen and we'll get into some of the details about that topic of the day. What we'd like to do is have some discussion regarding the Health Canada XML product monograph, and I thought it would be helpful to just do an overview. I know some of you in the audience are pretty far along and educated on this topic. Bear with us. There are some in the audience that might be approaching this for the first time. And now that there's a mandate in place, the Health Canada XML product monograph is now all of a sudden, percolated to the top of their to-do list. So we're going to rehash, recap, if you will, some of the framework around that product monograph, what the requirements are, what the timing are, is related to that particular activity, and then take a look at some of the recent updates. And I'm honored to have with me Mary and Dennis. These are associates from our operations team and delivery team who have spent years working with SPL, going way back to since the inception, going back 2024, 2025 timeframe, and then have also taken on additional responsibilities to support Health Canada XML product monograph. So we have some very experts in the house with a lot of expertise. Glad to have you join me, Mary and Dennis. So with that, yep, yep. Thank you. I'm going to knock out some of the regulatory framework and just do a quick overview for everyone, and then we'll get into perhaps the more exciting part, things that have been happening recently, and have Dennis and Mary jump in periodically. I'm going to ask them, so don't wander off, Mary, Dennis. I might have some questions for you as we work our way through here. Okay, we'll have a little bit of a discussion back and forth. So, real quick overview. Going back in time, and this is the framework of the background that Health Canada is working from. Long-standing product monographs divided into those three parts: the health professional information section, the scientific section, and the patient medication information section. That content has been tweaked over the years, but that has been authored in Word and maintained and shared with Health Authority, the Health Canada, in PDF content. One of the challenges that Health Canada faced was to move that content and receive it, manage it, and publish it, distribute it under an XML type of a format. So they launched, and this goes back a number of years, the XML Product Monograph Initiative. And the goal there was to make this information much more accessible to machines and computers and so on, and yet not lose the ability for patients and healthcare providers to have access to that information. Health Canada wanted to adopt a number of international standards. So they have this XML Product Monograph Initiative, which now is reaching and touching a lot of the particular submissions that are in place. And moving forward, there will be additional use of that. We'll take a look at how that has developed. One of the unique things about the creation of the XML Product Monograph is not only is there a structure, a tagging information, if you will, that is very conducive to computer use, but it also includes a section called product metadata. And that is a series of very structured fields with controlled terminology that needs to be used to describe the product. That presentation in that very structured format is different. That was not present in the narrative that we're familiar with under a Word document that might be created for example. So that's one of the new sections. As we work our way down through some of the other attributes about XML product monograph, a lot of the quick questions everyone has, well, what is in scope? And eventually, the list here would be addressed by Health Canada. So certainly the human prescription drugs, some of those documents that are submitted through the ECTD, so the NDS, new drug submissions, the supplements, and abbreviated new drug submissions and supplements for them. Noteworthy is that the product monographs use a master template, and we're going to talk about how that has changed over the course of time. Out of scope would be the over-the-counter products. So these non-prescription drugs, the self-care products, natural health, medical devices, food, and veterinary products. Will they be eventually at some point in time? I believe there's a good possibility that OTC would be in there. And if they follow the suit of what the FDA, US FDA has done, certainly there would be some veterinary drugs and included in there, and perhaps some of the other products. We'll talk about these product monographs and these masters over the course of times, but there's a long history going back. If you've had a product that has said no changes, you might have some content in some of these earlier templates, but we'll need to talk about that and address how the narrative needs to be updated into a more current version. So before we get into some of those details about the master templates, Robin, I believe you have a poll there that has been prepared. So why don't you go ahead and launch that? I see it coming up here. So this particular poll poses the question, what has been your biggest challenge so far with XML product monograph submissions? So you're able to make a single answer. So go ahead and do that. I see a lot of answers coming in, and we'll keep that open for just a few more moments. Don't want to belabor the point. One of the options there would be the technical formatting. So with XML, this is brand new. Although, if you had some experience with the US SPL, the formatting is similar, not the same, but you might be able to tackle those technical challenges a little bit easier if you have some SPL background. The Health Canada requirements is the second one. They are unique. Many times they have some things in common, but they do have a number of unique issues. Third option there, internal resources and expertise, and 4, aligning with global submissions, and the last one is other. So the winner in this particular category is or the biggest challenge, I should say, is understanding those Health Canada requirements. And I'm not surprised at that. 44% of the audience answered that particular item, understanding the Health Canada requirements. Hopefully, we will help explain that in this session, and always available for further discussions afterwards as well. So I believe that is the results. I'm going to close that off and go back to the webinar. So the next topic I wanted to dive into is those templates. I alluded to those a little bit. Going way back, 2004, 2014, and 2016, number of templates were used. 2016 was significant in that there were a number of independent templates that were consolidated together. So there's 6 different areas, 6 different types of templates that were merged together in the 2016. But time marches on, and there have been versions to that master template. So that was a major change. But 2020, 2024, and 2025, even throughout this year, there's been three minor revisions to that template that are to be used, and data that would be sitting in any of those old templates would be required to go to the current master template. So again, whatever that might be, as I mentioned, even in 2025, there's been multiple versions, but the current master would be used in the conversion and preparation of creating XML product monograph. So one of the things the Health Canada wanted to avoid was taking content that was in a very old format and structure and trying to put it in XML product monograph. So there is this prerequisite step: migrate content into the current master template, and then the instructions, the guidance, the schema, all the supporting documents that Health Canada maintains and continually updates is targeted for the most current master template. So it's very important that when it comes time to create that XML product monograph, that the narrative that you have, that your product monograph does comply with the current master product monograph template, and then the XML presentation of that is able to be created, and all the documentation and everything is able to support that.
And most of the sorry, hi, Dennis here.
Yeah, Dennis, please jump in.
Yeah, since 2020, the template has been fairly stable. They've changed a lot of the vocabulary, but the form of the template it's basically been the same, except for section 14. They made a lot of changes, but
yeah, I believe there are a couple sections that might have been expanded and reversed and positioned, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But you're saying that once you get over to 2020, it's been some minor revisions since then? Is that your point?
Yeah, there have been a lot of revisions, but not really to the substance of each section. So like changing from 2016 to 2020, there's a lot of changes, but since 2020, it's been fairly stable. It's the most, like, they've changed a lot of French terminology through that time.
Now, one thing that you mentioned there that it would definitely affect would be the metadata section. So the narrative that you normally see in the product monograph, the regular description of the product and the prescribing information, there's part 1, 2, and the third part. That content obviously now needs to follow the actual organization and the outline. But if there's been, for example, a vocabulary term and a particular code for a vocabulary term that might show up in the metadata, that would actually affect the XML product monograph creation, but it would not necessarily go back and affect the narrative. So there are some updates that are transparent to the actual narrative, and yet others are would affect the actual narrative. So you might not have been aware of, say, the January 8th or the June 12th updated version. But anyway, we'll talk a little bit more about some of the more recent vocabulary changes that have occurred. For those that have experience with the US FDA SPL, the next couple slides just do a real quick side-by-side comparison, and you can use your knowledge and experience with the FDA SPL and see how it compares to the Health Canada XML product monograph. I'll just highlight a couple of these, and other ones we'll leave for homework if you want to do a real detailed side by side. But you notice the scope right away. Health Canada started off with just human prescription drugs. By the way, back in the 2004 timeframe, the FDA did the same thing. They focused in on prescription drugs only, and then expanded to many different product types. Now, last time I checked, there was like 58 different labeling versions of SPL that the FDA monitors. And as of today, we just have this one instance for Health Canada. But I would expect that to expand once we have some momentum. The content, I highlighted the fact that there's this product monograph or this product metadata that needs to be included. That would be a new content, and yet that's long-standing content inside the FDA SPL. When we come to the type of document, the FDA SPL still allows what I refer to as the SPL original format, and a second going forward, the physician labeling rule format. So new documents would need to comply with the physician labeling rule, but there are some old legacy drugs that still make use of the original. When you go over to Health Canada, they wanted to avoid that confusion, and they started with the current product monograph master template. And again, that has some versions and ongoing changes. Noteworthy in Health Canada, along with all those official documents, you have both the English and French language, and product identification is different. There's the DIN number as opposed to the NDC in the U.S. We take a look at real quickly the second one. It's interesting, even though Health Canada uses the term XML product monograph, the underlying style, the underlying schema, I should say, uses the very same schema that the FDA uses. So both make use of the Health Level 7 SPL schema. Now, obviously, the information that is captured is slightly different in the metadata, and the organization is different. So the rules to organize the content rely on an implementation guide. So FDA has their own implementation guide. Health Canada has their respective implementation guide. So the content, if you follow the implementation guide, you learn how to organize that information and how to customize and how to code it. There are some shared vocabularies, and what I refer to that is something called controlled terminologies or controlled vocabularies. The FDA has some custom ones. They have some shared ones. There's also a few that are adopted and align with the international or the identification of medicinal products, IDMP. Health Canada is doing the same. So there's some international, and Health Canada's intent is to move more toward those international vocabularies rather than just a Health Canada only. But as of today, there's a number of Health Canada custom vocabularies intermixed with the international ones. If you're familiar with XML, the style sheet is the instructions on how to present the information. How do you create the rendered view if you were open an XML file with a browser? And this is instructions on how to present the data. It can control how tables are presented. It can control table of contents. For example, table of contents is automatically created by both of these style sheets. It can create tables, colors, headers, footers, all kinds of information. The US SPL has a highlight section. So style sheets are very powerful in presenting data suitable for the audience to read. And if you take one style sheet, in this particular case provided by the health authority, you'll get a rendered view. By the way, third-party style sheets can be created and launched against the very same data set for different type of usage. We'll get into that in some other conversation. But both FDA and Health Canada have created their own custom style sheets. The data itself, remember, uses the same underlying structure and rules, Health Level 7 SPL. But what you see in the rendered view is quite different. And that is because of these customized style sheets. a significant difference in the next two rows here are that the FDA provides some free tools for authoring and for validation. Health Canada does not do that. They rely on industry or in-house tools for you to do the authoring and of XML and do your validation. So there's no Health Canada tool for those particular functions, and that it complicates the issue a little bit. And now it becomes necessary to find a particular substitute for a health authority provided tool. And then upon submission, both the health authorities provide or apply their validation. So there's internal validation, and obviously they're customized for the particular documents. Things are pretty much the same here. Documents are submitted through the ECTD. There's no principal display panel as of yet for Health Canada. That's a difference in the presentation of images. Health Canada uses actually the same physical electronic submission gateway referred to as the common electronic submission gateway, but now it's redirected to Health Canada as the review center. And because of the multiple reviews and languages, Health Canada will have a multiple step review process. Okay, so I know that was pretty rigorous, working through the side by side. Hopefully it gave you some idea of where Health Canada is similar, but yet, as we have seen, you have to redefine details because they have created their own environment, their own sets of regulations controlling the Health Canada XML product monograph. All right, real quickly here, let's take a look at some timing issues. Back in November of last year, 2024, there was this product monograph notice that came out, and we now know just a few weeks ago, July 18th of 2025, was the beginning of phase 1 mandatory use of XML product monograph. So what does that mean, and what's the scope? So it's not everything that we talked about in the early slide about what is applicable. They focus just on any new drug submission or extraordinary use new drug submissions. And the products that would be affected would be those pharmaceutical products, prescriptions primarily. There are some actually new drug products that would be non-prescription, and then under Division 8, they need to supply a new drug submission, and they would be in scope. Biologic drugs and the radiopharmaceutical drugs. Not in scope in this particular wave would be those other drug submissions, all the generic products, and the cross-license products. Now, there are some caveats for those particular types that the Health Canada has put in place. So you can voluntarily submit some of these, but there are some caveats. Other than the NDS and the EU NDS, you can voluntarily submit XML product monographs with those applications. There's a special requirement for generic drug products. So in this particular case, Health Canada is advising you to wait until the Canadian reference product switches over to XML product monograph. And then at that point in time, you must include XML product monograph in your next solution. So as a generic drug manufacturer, you really do need to keep an eye on the reference drug product. Similar conversation for cross-license products. So wait until that licensing product switches to XML product monograph, and then your next submission would need to follow with an XML product monograph.
Gary, can I make a comment about that that notice from November 18th? In that notice, it mentions that that XML PMs will be published on a drug and health products portal. um, that would have both PDFs and XMLs. And
Hmm.
I've been looking through that portal, and I don't see XMLs on there yet. So yeah, so similar to the FDA, it would be on Daily Med, something like that, but I didn't see anything like that yet. I think it's still just PDFs and
Yeah, I
yeah.
haven't heard any timing for that publication, but have you, Dennis or Mary, heard anything about when that might happen?
Like that site is up, but it's not showing XMLs yet. So I don't know
Got
if
it. It's only the PDF. Yeah,
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 maybe those XMLs haven't been authorized yet. So who knows? But
yeah. I'm not too surprised if there's a delay.
yeah,
So sometimes we have timing from and
yeah,
intent from
right.
health authorities. I won't point any fingers, but
Yeah.
it
Considering that
it you
this
get a tent is like we're going to do this, and then
yeah,
when it actually happens. So speaking of timing,
yeah.
let's take a look at uh, going way back to 2017. We here at Retech started participating in some very early pilot testing, and 2017 is actually off the timeline on the left hand margin here. So very early on, and there was some interest in some a phase one activity, put it that way, um, starting in 2020, and then going through the middle of 2021, where by request you could submit an XML product monograph, and it was very limited activity. And then phase two was announced, where any manufacturer would be able to voluntarily submit XML product monograph. And at the start of that, one might have assumed maybe a year later, perhaps in 2022. No. Maybe in 2023. No. Perhaps in 2024. No. It was in the middle of 2025 that we finally have seen the trigger pulled by Health Canada, and now it they do require XML product monograph to be included in the NDS and the extraordinary use NDS submissions. So if you have a new submission here, um, you will need to make sure the XML product monograph is included in that submission. So this is the start of that compliance date, the beginning of that mandate, and then going forward, obviously anything new. Now, that's not everything that is submitted. So there's a placeholder, at least on our diagram here, about future phases. I have not seen any details on this. I believe they're going to see how this phase one rolls out, and I believe eventually there'll be a tipping point where industry is has adopted and implemented XML product monograph, and kind of like the dust settles. Uh, I have a artificial date here of middle of next year, but there's no evidence to support that. It's really just for illustration purposes. So don't take that as a hard fact. But there will be future phases where XML product monograph would be required for those other types of documents. And I would imagine at some point they will even go back and say, okay, legacy documents that you have never touched, now you need to update those as well. So Dennis, you talked about things not happening right away with the publication on that portal. So are we too surprised? Maybe not.
No,
But Health Canada has been very helpful, by the way, in sharing information and moving this along. Remember, we had COVID hit kind of in the middle of this, and it really slowed everything down, both from the health authority and manufacturing side. But yeah, I think eventually they will be published. But anyway, this is the map, and today we're talking about this. Just a few weeks ago, this mandate to make use of XML product monograph. Did you, Dennis or Mary, do you have any more comments on this one? This slide?
No, I think
Ah,
it was originally phase 3, Roman numeral 3, and that was July 2020. But COVID kind of pushed that very far.
Yeah. Well, I've been a little bit confused by the number or the identification. So you're right.
Yeah.
When they rolled out phase 1 and phase 2, both Roman numeral 1 and 2, they talked about Roman numeral 3, phase 3. Uh, and yet, when the notice came out, there was no mention of phase 3. There was a phase 1, but now a Arabic number 1 uh, as mandatory. So does that mean there's a phase 2 mandatory? Um, Most likely. But anyway, yeah, don't be confused by the numbering here. This is what we'll call the third wave, but technically phase 1 mandatory.
yeah, it's not a typo. That's
Yeah, yeah, good point. It's not a typo. We're just as confused as you are on
Mhm.
the identification. I'm sure there was good reason inside Health Canada to figure that out.
I'm sure too.
All right, so that kind of is the update on the timing. Um, let's dive a little bit now into the preparation and submission. So let's talk first of all about the items on the screen here. On the left-hand side would be those in the audience, the drug manufacturers, and eventually making submissions to the Health Canada review and the publication on that drug and health product registry on the right-hand side. Inside the drug manufacturer, before you had XML product monograph, there were various capabilities, various functions. Obviously, you'd author the source product monograph. There would be a translation into both, the first and second languages, and then an ECTD tool to publish that information and put that labeling into module 1, and send that marketing application off through the electronic submission gateway to the health and food products. And there would be review process and, go back and forth for some negotiation. And eventually it would be approved and published. And that PDF, most noteworthy, the PDF would be published on DHPR. Now, with the advent of XML product monograph, that's a new function put into the mix over there after translation. So both French and English need to be translated and submitted. Some of the challenges in creating that XML product monograph we had touched on earlier. Health Canada does not provide an online authoring tool to create that XML. Health Canada does not provide an online validator to make sure that what you eventually have created in XML meets all the terminology and making sure that the XML is well formed and able to parse correctly and so on. So with the lack of those two things, you'll need either an internal tool. You can create one on your own, a little bit difficult. You can purchase one and install it, or you can use an external vendor, or buy a tool from a vendor, or you can use some services. So there's a couple options there. This particular task, the things that you need to do are rather lengthy. So brand new in this preparation exercise, there's rough count of 80 different metadata elements about that drug product that need to be captured. So, and many times there's more than one active ingredient and multiple inactive ingredients. So it gets expanded way above 80 at the minimum quite quickly and can blow up to be many attributes. But there's information about the marketing authorization holder. If in the event there's a Canadian importer distributor, detailed about the product, the active ingredient section, inactive ingredient section, and then product characteristics and information about packaging and the regulatory status. So there's a lot of information that is now captured in a very structured fashion. This is the metadata that I was referring to earlier. And this is over and above the narrative that you create. The narrative is captured in XML as well, coded on the left-hand side. And I have to tell the marketing people, well, I need at least one screenshot of XML. And they said, oh, no, people don't care about that XML tag. They said, no, I need at least one. Well, here's the obligatory one XML image. Mary and Dennis, deal with this day in and day out. So it looks very common for them. When you render that with a simple browser, we're talking like Microsoft Edge or Google browser, Chrome or something. This on the left-hand side, this table of contents, based on the Health Canada style sheet, is automatically created. Based on this content that's coded, and then the actual text, starting with the title page and going on down, is rendered, and now it's nice and easy for a human to work their way through. These links are obviously live, so you can jump back and forth to many of the sections. So that is very powerful. I actually like the Health Canada style sheet and rendering. It works very well. A lot of good features. So it's a nice presentation. That is the target. Now you can read through here and say, oh, wait a minute, I'm very familiar with this. This is everything that I've been writing in my product monograph for years. And that is true. So the content, the information about your product, as long as it follows the most recent product monograph template, that is not changed. What we're talking about is being able to code it in this particular XML. And then the presentation looks like you might have, opened up a Word document or a PDF, but it's quite different. They're underlying this is all this XML that computers are able to negotiate, able to sort and filter, find information, and make better use of that for downstream applications. That style sheet that we're talking about takes the metadata values and builds tables. So in addition to that narrative content, we have all this content put in a tabular format. These tables have those sections that we talked about. So here's the marketing authorization, the Canadian importer, distributor, information about the actual product, active and inactive ingredients, some of those characteristics, product status, and in the event that there's a package hierarchy, so there might be 5 tablets in a bottle in this case, and 10 tablets in another type of bottle. So each of those identifiers, the DIN numbers and so on, would be able to be found over here, and it's all made available to the public and to the healthcare providers, your physicians, and other downstream users, decision support system or whatever, able to download this information from XML and then make powerful use of that for the industry. The question is, how do you create that XML? So looking back at that diagram that we had earlier, we now know what has to be done here. We have to code this. We have to capture the metadata. There is this side activity, if you will. Yes, it can be done internally with your tool. It can be done by external vendor. I'm illustrating here the LexisNexis ReadText solution, where source information, including the metadata and images in the narrative, flow into this process, and this process is able to build that XML after we check it for the actual data validation. So if you have erroneously picked an item that's not on a controlled vocabulary list, or and unfortunately this has to be down to the letter. So if there's an extra space or something in a selection, we do check that and make sure that the content is according to the most recent master template, and that the metadata conforms to all the rules, and build that XML product monograph and then check it against and do some validation against some business rules that are in place. Now, this doesn't happen just once, so I wanted to let you know that in our services, we keep version control, and even if you were to do this through some other tool, it's very important to keep version control and store that information and have reports of the progress. And this cycle, if you will, of building XML product monograph, you might pass through here. Let's, for example, use English as the first language. It might be done with English, and then you do the submission. There's review process, and you get feedback from Health Canada. Eventually, you get the approval, and then boom, you have short turnaround to supply the French. So that should already be ready and available, and you just tweak it. And then this process is reiterated with French, and then you submit the French documents as well. Goes through that final HPFB review, and then published out to that data or that portal that Dennis was referring to earlier. So eventually, that PDF would be accompanied by the XML. Like as of today, Dennis keeps looking, and you'll let us know when it finally gets there. But again, that's only PDF today. Intent is to have XML there. So let me stop here for a second. Mary, you and Dennis, you live this. Are there any things that you would like to highlight in this process flow?
Yeah, we've been doing this for so long. We do have extensive knowledge, obviously, on many different validation rules, requirements, errors, warning messages. We carefully review all of the reports received from the health authority validator, and advise on the updates needed. We've had some pretty interesting specific case studies where we've had to make some changes that were unexpected. But yeah, that's it. Dennis, anything?
Just the important thing is that it's they're very rigid with their format of the template. Like
yes.
they want every heading to be exactly what the template is. Like they don't want any variation from the controlled vocabulary that they've set up will cause a validation error.
It is. It's more structured, I guess, than FDA SPL.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, we're gonna. There's a couple places where I know you have some other comments that we're going to ask you to share. But before we go there, I believe, Robin, you have queued up another poll. This would be the second and the final poll, and thank you very much, everyone, for participating. All right, so this poll asks the question, where are you in the adoption of XML product monograph? So haven't even started. I have no idea what, Gary, you're talking about. What the heck is XML? The second possibility, you're in the process of getting the information, maybe doing some training. Third possibility is that you're currently preparing XML product monograph. And the fourth answer there is I have already submitted. So that's very interesting. And some of those in the audience are gathering information and just educational, whatever, and maybe not be currently have a product in their portfolio that needs to be submitted, so not applicable. All right, I think the results are coming in here. It looks like, let me share these results. It looks like the most frequent answer is 39% haven't started yet. So I believe that is what we kind of expected. A lot in the audience have learned about XML product manager. They kind of know what it is. But now that there is finally a mandate, and it's not a comment on any one manufacturer in particular, but it does make sense in many cases not to do an XML product monograph until you're actually required to. So for those people that have that type of approach, let the dust settle, let the guidances get firmed up, and then I'll do it when I have to. By the way, we have some clients that are completely opposite in that strategy. The other side of that coin is they are the early adopters. They are very aggressive and have in the past participated in the voluntary submissions. So whatever your particular business approach is, either early, voluntary, or near the end, near the deadline. But now it's become a mandate if you're submitting a new NDS. So I'm not too surprised that 40% of those in the audience have not started yet. But anyway, hopefully this was a good background webinar to provide a lot of good information. So let me now go back to the PowerPoint. There's a couple more items that would like to touch on. And it's really an extension of what we talked about earlier. I asked Dennis and Mary to jump in and provide some comments, about the flow. But let me open that up a little bit broader. The last number of years, we've been supporting Health Canada. What is going on? I mean, if this is a battle, if you can report from the front line what you're seeing, anything different, and I'll let both of you just take this particular slide and run with it.
Sounds good. Go ahead, Dennis. You want to start with the first one?
Sure. So yeah, we have seen a fivefold increase in interest in this. Driver that would be many new clients are now creating their first XML PMs. They did not participate in the voluntary period. That's been going on for a while because there was no requirement for this until now. And this is just for new products. The requirement on July 18th, new mostly prescription products. Yeah, do you have anything to add there, Mary?
Yeah, no, I think that just as shown from our poll, there's quite a few companies that have yet to, begin this whole process. So like
I did have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I did have a question. This increase, have you seen any extraordinary use NDSs come through, or are they all related to a conventional NDS, new drug submission?
I think all conventional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
New
Okay.
drug. Oh yeah, new drug was it, Dennis?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, new drug submission. Yeah.
I think I could speak to the next bullet item. That's the updating the XML. I know, Gary went into that quite a bit, but, the master template was, as Dennis also said, was finalized in 2020. And there were significant changes at the end of 24. And as was mentioned, there were minor updates made on June 12th of this year. But this, we have been monitoring this since 2020. we know how this affects the submission validation, and we make sure we're on top of the rules, the compliance rules. And we recently, just to give a kind of a specific example, we had a customer that had included an instructions for use section, and that's not supported in the master template. So we were able to, replace that or redirect that under the patient information section, under if you want more information about, that's a particular, section of the patient information section. And that, that was a helpful or, reasonable resolution to that problem. So, we're used to kind of thinking on our feet and applying the rules to the content as, as best as we can.
Yeah, we try to anticipate any validation issues that we have. Like we've seen, if there's an extra space in a section title, like that kind of thing.
How about some of the vocabulary updates? And they come to, at least to our attention. There's product manager over at Health Canada sending emails out and alerts, advising those changes. What do you folks do to accommodate that and now embed that into our process?
So almost all of those updates, they're always around almost every week we'll get like updates to the ingredients. Ingredient names are usually being added. The codes are usually taken from the FDA. If you look at their controlled vocabulary, it's the source is FDA. But they put their own names in there. So the Health Canada has about 3,000 ingredients listed on their controlled vocabulary, while the FDA has about 14,000. So there's a lot of ingredients that aren't there. A lot of this is a common error. Like whenever a client will submit something, they'll have an ingredient that's not listed in the Health Canada's controlled vocabulary. And what they should be doing is just submitting that with the ingredient, letting it fail, and then Health Canada will add that ingredient. It kind of lets them know, oh, we need this ingredient as well. And then on top of that, a lot of times they'll have an English terminology for an ingredient, but they won't have a French terminology yet. So we'll have English XMLs pass, and then the French will not pass because the ingredient has to be added.
We had a similar example of that with in the product information section. There was for the product characteristics, there was an English description of the tablet, or the color and the shape of the tablet, the dosage form tablet, and it was submitted to the Health Canada in the French format, but the descriptors were English, and that generates the validator does recognize which language it's expecting, and we had the customer had to come back to us with those French translations so that we could update that, and that resolved that error. So it gets pretty specific.
So that brings us to the third bullet there. It looks like you provided an example responding to pre-check validation errors and then rejections from Health Canada. Do you find that, first of all, the validation errors, are they clear as to what was out of compliance? And then the rejections from Health Canada, do they come back with a very good description of the error?
Yeah, the reports that we receive back from Health Canada are very descriptive.
Okay.
provide
Yeah.
us with the specific section where the error or warning occurs. Yeah.
All right.
I
So
mean,
do you want to talk?
so yeah,
You
so
want?
if you wanted to be specific, you know, for an ingredient, you actually it generates two errors. It will generate one for the controlled vocabulary, and it will generate one in another section for ingredient names. So it maybe is easy for us to interpret, but maybe not everyone would be able to interpret it. You know, it's
but
right.
it helps that they're so strict with their, you know, with it, because it's easier to find where the errors are.
Yes.
Right. All right. I'm looking at the time. Any quick comments about the English and French requirements? Certainly the coding is able to accommodate, you know, the French language. Any issues and do you prefer English just out of preference to get the structure down and then, you know, backfill it with French, or what's your comments?
Yes, we just, because that's our language, we prefer that first, and then we can take it, you know, apply it to the French.
Well, Mary, you did take French in high school. So.
I did, and college. But don't ask me beyond,
it's not,
yeah.
I would say it's not a requirement that you deliver English to RETEC first, but
no, we would be able to. Yeah,
I think that without a doubt, I think that's most of the business activity, and even inside some of the regulatory departments, they probably handle English first and then go to French, but it doesn't have to be that way. What's the last item here? Leveraging our health authority services.
So we've been able to apply or leverage our FDA SPL knowledge in the Health Canada realm, and then also we've extended that to the Jordan fire. Dennis has been leading that. So yes, Dennis, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I was noticing the therapeutic class codes within used in Health Canada are taken from the World Health Organization, and that it translates to the medical product classification values in the patient information leaflets that we've developed for Jordan, and also used in EPIs for
so that's really good. Certainly the 20 plus years or so with XML experience dealing with this SPL schema is applicable. Learning new business rules, you've been working with business rules and how they change over the course of time, not only with the FDA, but now with Health Canada. And building fire requirements, again, XML based, for the Jordan FDA, and as you know, EMA's moving into fire for EPI and so on. I think these are starting to have some international flavors. Our services are not just a point solution for the U.S., but we would serve these other health authorities as well. I see that there's one quick question. Let me ask that, and then we need to close. Our team is worried about older product monographs with tricky formatting. Do you have any advice on how our regulatory team can handle those regulatory documents, or those legacy documents rather, and make sure that the XML conversion goes smoothly? What do you recommend for old templates?
So we would definitely be able to assist in that. We would be able to outsource some medical writers and other regulatory authors who would be able to help us adapt the content to the new template. that we can help in that to migrate to the new template. So that would be anything prior to 2016. We could engage, an outsourced resource. And then we would be able to take over from there to convert that content to the XML formatting, XML PM. And
so I think the bottom line there, if I were to summarize, certainly recent changes are a little bit more straightforward, obviously able to help you there, but then we can also help you with the older format. So if the older format needs some major reorganization, some resections and so on, we could help reauthor that content up to the current. So I see that time has marched on. I want to thank you, Dennis and Mary. Thank you so much for joining me on this particular discussion about Health Canada. If you need more information, you can go to our website, go to Pharma and Cosmetics, and there's a lot of good resource information. You can subscribe to our newsletter. You can, connect to us through LinkedIn as well. With that, I think we'll sign off. And Robin, why don't you go ahead and close us out? Thank you so much.